Good morning. Welcome to Fired Up. This is your host, Bob Irwin. This show is all about guns, politics, and self-defense. We've got a panel discussion going on here on some issues here on Las Vegas TV that we want to keep everybody aware of. With us today is Chris Eifelt of CCS Gunsmithing and an NRA activist kind of guy. Murder defense specialist Clark Patrick, who does a lot of cases here that are serious cases in defending people that have been charged with murder or serious crimes. Retired Fed and firearms trainer Lenny Davis, been with Customs for years and years and lately with ICE. And now I do training for the State Department, I understand, on these issues. And attorney Michael Giles, former deputy sheriff, firearms trainer with me in a couple of academies, and now practicing law at Creed and Giles here in Las Vegas.
That's true.
There we are. We're going to talk about a couple of cases. One that is very kind of touchy here. We have arguments from time to time with people who are carrying guns that react wrongly when the police intervene. Basically, the case we're talking about here, this is in Ohio. A man went in, is just a guy. He parked his truck near a convenience store. At 4:30 a.m., he went into the convenience store to buy a sports drink. He is a licensed CCW holder. He came into the store, he bought his drink, didn't do anything terribly suspicious other than the time. It's 4:30 in the morning. Apparently made the store owner a little nervous. He left the store owner called the police and said, I might have been cased for a robbery. This guy's acting kind of funny. I think he might have a gun. There was no statement that the gun was shown. Maybe he saw the outline of it on the guy. But anyway, he called 911, and a unit did respond, and they came up to the guy and asked him if they could discover who he was. And, the owner just wanted to see, why are you out here this late, and so forth and so on. And his response was not very forthcoming, refused to give them ID, refused to tell him if he had a gun on him. He said, I don't have to talk to you. Are you a member of any organizations? The guy said, yeah, I'm a member of the NRA. And that was about it. Generally just being not horribly belligerent, but uncooperative with their little investigation to why are you wandering around here at 4 a.m. in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. So they rolled another unit for backup, and those guys, trying to get identification on him, went to his truck, which was parked about 100 feet away, and found his concealed carry permit and his identification. Didn't seem to be anything negative there, although they persisted into, well, why wouldn't you give us this? Why wouldn't you tell us who you are? Are there warrants for you? Or so forth and so on. And it became more belligerent until he got himself in handcuffs for basically disturbing the peace. A supervisor arrives, looked at everything and said, well, there's no real crime here, so we take you out of the handcuffs, wish you have a wonderful evening, and give him back his ID and send him on his merry way. There were no weapons found in the truck or anything like that, but they did search the truck. And he has come back now and filed a suit against the state for $600,000 for his stress for being handcuffed, and is asking for several million, 3.6 million, or 3 million in punitive damages over this, what we used to call a Terry stop. This is a legal term. We all got it in the academy. They went through the training, and it says that if somebody's acting in an unusual manner, an experienced officer looking at this could go, I may want to say, hi, Lenny, what are you doing? Why are you hanging around the park here with all the little kids?
Speak to my attorney.
And good answer. Anyway, they were having that discussion, but the senior officer let him go. And here, 6 months later, comes a lawsuit against the state for his damages and so forth. interesting case. There's no physical abuse. He was detained for a few moments while they looked at him. The article does not say how long he was detained, apparently a fairly brief time. And now he wants damage for his emotional trauma and so forth. The reason I bring this story up is not to criticize people carrying guns. God knows we train concealed weapon holders here a lot. We want people to carry guns. But to give the impression of how you should respond when the police walk up to you and say, "Hi, what are you doing?" That it might be wiser to say, I'm Chris. Here's my driver's license, and how are you guys doing?
Especially that early in the morning.
Well, that's part of the issue here because of the circumstances of the early morning hours. Not that it's illegal to be out in the early morning hours. It's not. And it's not illegal to carry a gun, which this guy was carrying. It's the circumstances that are suspicious to the officer causing the stop. You can obviously clear this up immediately by saying, yeah, I'm Fred, here's my ID, my truck's over there, and I'm we just stopped in to get a cold drink before I go home to bed, or whatever the case may be. And he chose not to do that. And that created this situation with the confrontation. The police officer, the senior officer arriving on the scene a little more cool-headed. Apparently these two guys made the initial search, were a little annoyed that he's not cooperating. It doesn't seem to me that anything happening here that matters one way or the other. If the guy with the gun had acted, okay, hi guys, it's 4:30 in the morning. I should probably, if you want to know why I'm here, I'll tell you, instead of not explaining.
And that would have been the right answer when they walked up. Identify yourself and be certain that they didn't have a reason to suspect you further, because they were there not at their own request, but a call. A call brought them there, so they didn't know what was going on.
And not a call of a crime, a call of this guy may be nervous. So we haven't really got a crime in progress, and there isn't a crime in progress. There's an interview in progress. And this gets further as the lawsuit comes, and now we draw everybody into this fray. So we'll discuss the legal aspects of this and more what to do when you're stopped by the police when we come back.
Are you able to protect your loved ones? We at the Gun Store have been helping Las Vegas residents equip themselves with home defense and personal safety products for over 25 years. We carry a full line of self-defense options, and our CCW concealed firearms permit class is free. Our other classes include ladies self-defense and free children's gun safety class. Our indoor range is open 7 days a week for you to try out some options and shoot a real machine gun. The Gun Store, located at 2900 East Tropicana Avenue.
And we are back. The questions that come up in this case is why we have lawyers on this show. So who wants to go first? Michael, you want to take the first comment at this?
This is this can happen. This can happen to anybody. In fact, this happened to me as a deputy sheriff. I was out on a late night work. We were trying to find somebody. My partner had gone down to the end of the street. I knocked on the door. The person behind the door called 911 and said, there is a strange man at my door. Of course, unbeknownst to us, the person we were looking for lived with Mom. He wasn't there. Mom was scared because she didn't know what was going on. I stepped off the porch of this mobile home and walked around the corner, and two very nice young Metro officers, one with a handgun, one with a rifle, were standing right there. And they asked who I was and what I was doing there. Now, of course, I'm a deputy sheriff, my IDs. This can happen to anybody, and it's the result of the way the officers get there. Now, the officer's driving down the street, sees this guy walking to his truck with an open gun in an open carry state. I would say the officer's wrong all day long to drive over there and say, hey, why do you got that gun? That's not his job at that point. I don't believe that rises to Terry. The gun itself isn't reasonable suspicion. But the clerk calling.
Explain Terry just a moment. So that
Terry says that if a police officer, through his training and experience, observes a person he believes is committing a crime or is about to commit a crime, he can engage with that person for purpose of an inspection, and to be safe, he can check them, pat them down outside the clothing for weapons, for officer safety.
It was a case in Ohio, actually. It's Terry versus
Terry
Ohio.
versus Ohio is the case. And so, but just seeing a gun in an open carry state isn't enough, because that person hasn't done anything illegal yet. Therefore, the police getting here on this one, it's a result of the clerk calling. We don't know what that 911 call said per se. So they may have had a different view, and so their reasonable suspicion might be different in this situation. Clearly this individual, by being obstinate, certainly he has a Second Amendment right, but typically if you're not doing something wrong, you engage with the officers long enough. You know, I don't have to tell you who I am. Well, here in Nevada, we know that's not true. You at least have to tell them who you are under the Heibel case. And so that was his first mistake. Officers tend to escalate ahead of where the person is. We teach that in the academy. You're always one step ahead of the bad guy. And so if he's going to start being verbally, you don't know where that's going. So you're probably going to go hands-on, which they did. They put him in handcuffs for officer safety. I'm sure that's going to be their response to the lawsuit. Right. And that led into the whole shebang. So the right answer here is, officer says, "Who are you?" You say, "My name's Michael Giles. Why do you have a gun?" I carry a firearm for my protection." "Where's your ID?" "It's in my pocket," or wherever it is. That would have been the right answer in this case, because the officers do have a right to investigate depending on how they got there.
We'll look at your end of it. A little bit different view on that. We were talking on the break. We've got about a minute left here to...
Well, I think as far as what Mike was saying, my view is not different. I think that absolutely, if the cops stop you and you're open carrying, you should not be belligerent with them, because that's going to lead to bad things. The problem I have with this case is the search of his pickup, which without a warrant, because that's clearly a Fourth Amendment violation. There was no exigent circumstances to search his truck. He wasn't near his truck. He wasn't in his truck. If they had to search his truck that bad, they could have gotten a warrant easily. It would have, of course, meant that he's sitting in the car for another hour, 45 minutes, whatever it takes. But the problem I have with this is not the cops' reaction to him; it's the cops searching his truck without a warrant.
Okay, the truck wasn't part of the suspicious crime.
No, and it was parked legally, and they didn't have to go into it.
And it sounds like from the article, it wasn't parked in the parking lot of the
It was
convenience
100
store.
feet away from the
It was 100
convenience
feet
store.
away. I think it even took the cops a minute to figure out that was his truck.
Okay. We'll be back in about a minute after a few commercials, and we'll get into this a little bit further. Don't go away.
Are you able to protect your loved ones? We at the Gun Store have been helping Las Vegas residents equip themselves with home defense and personal safety products for over 25 years. We carry a full line of self-defense options, and our CCW concealed firearms permit class is free. Our other classes include ladies self-defense and free children's gun safety class. Our indoor range is open 7 days a week for you to try out some options and shoot a real machine gun. The Gun Store, located at 2900 East Tropicana Avenue.
And we're back. Before we get further into this, I got to comment that I've had that happen to me, of course, twice. Once, probably 20 years ago, I was walking, just going out for a walk at night, which I was, perennially trying to lose weight. And a prowl car came up and went around the block and came back. Oh, here we go. And they pulled over and told me to put my hands on the car, and I put my hands in the car, and they reach in my back pocket, and the guy yells, "Gun!" He pulls a Beretta 380 out of my back pocket, and you understand this was before all the CCWs. There were like 300 permits in the whole county, and they were quite surprised to find me carrying a gun and not being a criminal. And I was on the car and whatnot before. They didn't ask, "Do you have a permit?" Because nobody had permits. So they presumed it was an unlawful gun and whatnot. And you know, it was a little humorous for a while there. I said, no, I'm me, and so forth and so on. And a sergeant showed up who I'd met, and you know, that was the end of that. But they do that. I also foolishly once went to play backup on looked like a really nasty traffic stop, and got out of my car, and you know, I thought the officer knew who I was. He did not know who I was, and I got a gun pointed at me. I went, "It's all yours, partner." Backed away. Anyway, let's talk about the truck. The truck was not involved in the immediate crime. So the PC, the probable cause to search the truck,
Non-existent.
isn't there.
Right.
So whatever they find is useless, but it's also against the law for them to do that. Training issues. We were just talking about that.
Well, here locally, it's my understanding that law enforcement in the last 6 months to a year has begun training on this issue because open carry has become an issue. There are more people open carrying. Nevada, of course, through negative implication, there's no law saying you can't open carry, therefore you can open carry.
It's a question we get all the time in class and on the phone. What's the statute number that says I can open carry? There isn't one. The point is there isn't a law that says you can't open carry. So.
And years ago it was pretty common actually for anybody who had a firearm on their person that wasn't concealed for the officers to do a stop and talk, find out what they're doing, where they're going, kind of warn them off. These days, my understanding is the training is that unless there is some other reason, unless it rises to a Terry standard of reasonable suspicion, if they're just walking down the street and you don't recognize them as a prohibited person and you have no reason to believe they're doing anything, let them go. Don't stop them, don't talk to them. They're within their rights. And I'm familiar with a few cases where that has actually come up, and I've talked to the officers that were involved in it, and they expressed that, yeah, we're working really hard with the individuals who choose to open carry because we want to respect their rights. But still in all, it's a total situational issue. You do not know why the officers are walking over. Now, if they misbehave, the right answer is to do it right and then call their boss. There's always somebody at the police department you can call and complain to. There's an internal affairs division. They have a lieutenant and a captain that they work for if you think they did it wrong. But you're not going to get a lot of traction if when they talk to you, you respond poorly. So it's an issue of the law enforcement getting training on the citizens' right to carry firearms and the citizens understanding they're doing a job, an important, vital job.
Got to meet them in the middle.
Got to meet them in the middle.
Bit.
There's got to be a middle ground.
And I think you got to be responsible if you're open carrying, especially in a place like Las Vegas where there's an open container law, but you walk down the strip with a drink or down Fremont Street with a drink. If you're open carrying and you have a 16-ounce can of Budweiser in your hand, you're probably going to get stopped and talked to.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. So, you know, there is a proper middle ground where everybody's rights are protected. And honestly, if this individual had done that correctly, they never would have gone to his truck. What I agree with Clark on here, this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, wouldn't have happened.
That seems the case. Be polite, and it won't happen. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Are you tired of the same old routine? It's time to shake things up with a visit to the Pro Gun Club of Las Vegas. Located just 25 minutes from the Strip, Pro Gun Club offers 160 acres of space, featuring skeet shooting, rifle and handgun ranges. It's a great place to practice, and safety is always number one. Come anytime and enjoy the grounds, or ask about our membership. The Pro Gun Club is a great place to celebrate and respect your Second Amendment right. Spice up your leisure time with the Pro Gun Club. Call us at 293-2108 today.
And we are back on Fired Up. So to finish off where we were talking there, the consensus seems to be that, and correctly, you have a right to carry a gun openly if you want. If you're stopped by the police or they inquire, if you're courteous, you don't get into all these kinds of things. And we realize the police can be wrong. I mean, that certainly happens. But just, be a gentle soul and try and explain to them what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you have a right to do it, and they'll go, fine, they get it, and they'll leave you alone. Hopefully the training will help.
Try to use a little bit of that essence that's very hard to find anymore, and that's common sense.
And courtesy, yeah. Legal case came up yesterday. I just found this. It says that a town in Georgia has now decided, I'll give you guys a copy of it because this is like lawyer stuff, has decided to file a new city ordinance that says everybody's required to have a gun and ammunition. As was done in Kennesaw some time ago. The town is called Nelson in Georgia. It has a population of 1,300 people. And passed this law for public safety with some exceptions in it that say, you know, if you're a conscientious objector, you don't have to own a gun and so forth and so on. Or you're a criminal and you can't own a gun. But they let people out of that. But the 5-member town board approved this unanimously and said violators will be fined $1,000. That's a little further step than they had in Kennesaw, Georgia. I don't think they were fining people for not having a gun. And this has become such an issue apparently in this little town in Georgia of 1,300 that the Brady Center to Prevent Handgun Violence has filed a federal lawsuit against the town for, I couldn't make this up. Don't they have anything else to do? Anyway, they've filed a lawsuit against the town saying it's unconstitutional for their law, their town board ruling, whatever, to require everybody to have a gun, even though it gives them exceptions if you're suffer from physical or mental disability, you're a felon, a pauper, or people who conscientiously oppose maintaining a firearm a result of religious doctrine. What do you think? The amendment says you have a right to keep and bear arms.
Yeah, I don't think it violates the Second Amendment. I think there might be some legs to the forcing an individual to make a purchase, although under current law with health care, as long as they call it a tax, they're okay. It does create two classes of individuals, a head of household. It doesn't require anybody but the head of household. But it seems to me that if the actual exemptions that are described here conscientiously oppose maintaining firearms as a result of the beliefs or religious doctrine, were in there from the beginning. I don't think that handgun control, actually Brady Center Prevent Violence used to be Handgun Control Incorporated, right, as we all knew it in the 80s, would have a leg to stand on. Of course, in order to get standing, they had to find a citizen who was harmed. So they did. Harold Lamar Kellett was forced to purchase a handgun and ammunition, which cost him nearly $700. But he really wasn't forced as long as the law actually had that conscientious objection language at the beginning.
Right. Well, the other clause in there, if he's a pauper, so if he says I can't afford it, he could probably fall under the pauper exemption also. And
the question there, of course, would be how do they define pauper? Is it the federal poverty line or something? But it certainly, as long as all he had to do was say, I don't want a gun in my house. You can't force me to buy something I don't want. So I don't think that their suit would be able to survive a summary judgment motion at this point.
We're going to hold right there. That's our show for this morning. Thank you for tuning in. We'll cover this a little bit more maybe in next week's show because I'd like to get a little more straightened out on this. I think there's an issue that was missed. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Are you tired of the same old routine? It's time to shake things up with a visit to the Pro Gun Club of Las Vegas. Located just 25 minutes from the Strip, Pro Gun Club offers 160 acres of space, featuring skeet shooting, rifle and handgun ranges. It's a great place to practice, and safety is always number one. Come anytime and enjoy the grounds, or ask about our membership. The Pro Gun Club is a great place to celebrate and respect your Second Amendment right. Spice up your leisure time with the Pro Gun Club. Call us at 293-2108 today.